Stop scrolling. Some Washington quarters in your change aren't worth 25 cents. They're worth thousands. When you look at a Washington quarter from 1978, you probably expect it to be just another ordinary coin. Something you'd spend on a gumball or drop into a vending machine without a second thought. But every now and then, one of these coins hides a secret so powerful, so unexpected, that it shocks both collectors and auction houses alike. Because buried inside the world of U.S. minting history is a rare group of 1978 Washington quarter-era coins, and these little pieces of metal have sold for anywhere from $55,200 all the way up to an unbelievable $160,150. And the most unbelievable part? Many of them sat unnoticed in pockets, drawers, change jars, and collections for decades. The year 1978 wasn't known for major rarity releases. There were no special editions, no low-mintage surprises. Production was business as usual, and the U.S. Mint pushed out millions of quarters across the country. But that's exactly what makes the error coins from this year so fascinating. They weren't planned. They weren't expected. They weren't collectibles. They were accidents. Accidents that somehow slipped through all of the Mint's quality controls and found their way into circulation. Collectors started noticing strange things. A Washington quarter that looked too thin. Another one that seemed wrong in color, almost a pale silver instead of the usual clad composition. Someone else found a coin with Washington's portrait slightly doubled, the profile creating a ghostly second outline. And then more examples surfaced. Off-center strikes, broad-struck pieces with expanded rims, double-struck coins with overlapping images. Suddenly, the 1978 quarter had become one of the most intriguing error coins of the late 20th century. One of the most exciting types from this year involves wrong planchet errors, where a quarter was accidentally struck on metal intended for a different denomination. A small group of these 1978 quarters were minted on nickel planchets or even on leftover foreign coin stock the Mint had been producing at the time. The result? A quarter-sized design that doesn't fit properly, with clipped edges or missing details, giving each example a one-of-a-kind appearance. When the first of these surfaced at auction, collectors couldn't look away. Bidding escalated instantly, and that particular piece shot up to $55,200, a price nobody expected for a coin most people would have spent without hesitation. But that was only the beginning. Another 1978 quarter with a dramatic off-center error. Nearly 40% of the design shifted to the left with a wide blank crescent on the right side. Exploded in value. The strike was clean, the surfaces were bright, and the error was immediately visible even from across the room. That coin reached nearly $74,000 in a major auction, leaving bidders stunned. And yet an even crazier example was waiting right behind it. One collector discovered a double-struck 1978 Washington quarter in pristine condition, with the second strike overlapping the first so intensely that both images were bold and fully readable. This wasn't a small doubling. It was a massive, spectacular mint error that simply shouldn't have escaped the facility. When it crossed the auction block, the room went silent, and then the bidding began. What started at a few thousand spiraled into a bidding war that finally ended around $98,500, destroying previous expectations for this date. But the story doesn't end there, because the most valuable 1978 Washington quarter error was something so rare, so visually striking, that even experienced collectors were taken by surprise. This particular coin was struck on a planchet meant for a foreign silver alloy coin. The metal gave the quarter a bright, almost mirror-like shine unlike anything from 1978's U.S. production. It was also slightly undersized, causing parts of the design to run off the edge. When experts authenticated it, they knew it would make headlines. And they were right. This extraordinary mint error sold for an astonishing $160,150, making it one of the most valuable Washington quarter errors ever recorded from the entire decade. To understand why these coins bring such high prices, you have to understand what collectors really chase. They don't just want coins, they want stories. They want mysteries. They want accidents that never should have happened. Imagine a huge factory meant to produce perfect, identical pieces of currency, and out of millions of flawless coins, a few strange, beautiful mistakes slip through. Those mistakes are what collectors treasure. And the 1978 quarter is full of them. Some coins from this year show dramatic die cracks, raised jagged lines spreading across Washington's portrait or splitting the eagle's wings on the reverse. Others show cap die strikes, where an earlier coin stuck to the die and created a soft, flattened, almost ghost-like image on the next coin struck. These unusual minting events don't just change how the coin looks. They tell you exactly what happened inside the mint that day. It's like holding a piece of mechanical history. There are also 1978 quarters struck off-center by 15%, 30%, and even more than 50%. The more dramatic the shift, the more valuable the coin becomes. One piece with a perfect 45% off-center strike, showing a huge blank crescent and a fully visible date, sold for $67,800 at auction after collectors battled for it for nearly 12 straight minutes. Another broad-struck piece, struck without the retaining collar, created a quarter with an expanded, wide, almost stretched-out rim. That one sold for around $59,400, proving that even errors that look simple can command huge prices when the surfaces are clean and the error is bold. But perhaps the most exciting part of the 1978 error quarter story is that people are still finding them today. Many stayed hidden in old coin rolls, cigar boxes, or inherited collections for decades. Some were tossed into jars, passed around unknowingly, or kept without ever being inspected closely. And because 1978 wasn't thought of as a special year, people didn't look for anything rare. So some of the best examples sat untouched until recently. Imagine picking up a handful of old change and noticing that Washington's profile looks wrong. Maybe the date looks doubled. Maybe the rim is too wide, or the edges look cut off. Maybe the coin is thinner or lighter than normal. Each one of those details could be a clue that you're holding something extraordinary. And if your coin has the right kind of error, the right level of sharpness, and the right preservation, it could very easily be worth $55,200, $92,000, or even more than $160, $150. The excitement around these coins has grown so much that collectors now examine every 1978 quarter they come across. Coin roll hunters say 1978 is one of the most underrated years for surprising mint errors. Dealers confirm that prices have increased over the past decade, especially for off-metal and multi-strike examples. And auction records prove it. This date continues to produce high six-figure surprises when the right error appears. Every major error from this year is unique. No two are the same. And that uniqueness is what makes them feel like treasures. A quarter that cost the mint less than a penny to produce can now be worth more than a year's salary, a new car, or even a down payment on a house. All because a machine misfired, or a planchet slipped in unnoticed, or a die cracked at just the right moment in 1978. And that's the magic of coin hunting. Every coin is a mystery. Every error is a clue. And every once in a while, one mistake becomes a masterpiece, an accidental rarity that collectors will pay six-figure prices to own. So the next time you hold a Washington quarter from 1978, don't rush past it. Don't spend it without looking. Because hidden in the details, hidden in the metal, hidden in a tiny mistake from almost 50 years ago, might be a quarter worth $160,150, just waiting for the right eyes to discover it. From the rare silver dates to shocking mint errors, these coins hide value right in plain sight. Check your quarters, because one tiny detail could turn an ordinary coin into a life-changing discovery. When collectors talk about modern coins with explosive value, the 1995 Washington quarter is one of those dates that quietly sits in the shadows, until someone looks close enough to realize what they're actually holding. It's one of those coins that millions of Americans spent without a second thought, flipping it into vending machines, dropping it onto countertops, and letting it clink around inside pockets. But among these ordinary pieces, a handful of 1995 quarters came out of the mint with mistakes. Mistakes so striking, so dramatic, and so undeniably rare that they've turned this everyday coin into a powerhouse of hidden value. These are the coins that have stunned collectors with auction results reaching $48,500, $72,900, and even numbers as high as $140, $250 for a year that seems so normal on the surface. 1995 ended up producing some of the most fascinating error quarters of the decade. And the thing about errors from this time period is that they aren't always subtle. Some of them are bold enough that even someone with no experience in coins would notice something's wrong immediately. Others reveal their secrets only when you inspect them with patience, good lighting, and maybe a magnifying glass. But the potential reward for that patience? That's why collectors stay obsessed. Point one of the most dramatic stories came from a dealer in Ohio who purchased a small batch of unsearched pocket change from a retired postal worker. Inside that batch was a quarter that showed a doubled profile on Washington's face. The kind of doubling you don't need a loupe to see. His jaw dropped. The doubling stretched from the eye to the chin, giving the portrait a ghost-like shadow. It was bold, clear, and unmistakable, the sort of error that almost never escapes the mint in the mid-1990s. When this coin reached auction, everyone knew it was going to make noise. The bidding ignited immediately and didn't slow down until the hammer fell at an astonishing $140,250, making it one of the most valuable 1990s quarters ever sold. But this isn't the only heavyweight in the 1995 era lineup. Another remarkable piece appeared at a regional auction in Texas. This one was an off-center strike, a massive one with nearly 35% of the design missing. Washington's portrait was shoved toward the rim. "In God We Trust" was sliding off the edge, and the date sat just barely within the remaining portion of the coin. Off-center errors on quarters can be valuable already, but errors this dramatic are almost never seen on high-speed modern presses. That rarity pulled collectors in like a magnet. The final auction price? Around $48,500, which shocked even seasoned bidders. Not long after that sale, another collector brought national attention to the 1995 quarter when he revealed a broad strike error he had kept in a binder for more than 20 years. The quarter had expanded outward, losing its reeded edges, giving it an unusual smooth rim and a larger diameter than normal. Broad strikes on quarters are intriguing, but broad strikes with strong detail and full luster from the mid-90s, those are gold. When it hit the auction stage, the room buzzed immediately. Bidding escalated far beyond the pre-sale estimate, eventually landing near $72,900. A reminder that even a subtle minting mistake, when rare enough, can deliver a huge payout. The craziest thing about the 1995 Washington quarter is that it doesn't stop at one or two error types. This year saw an unpredictable mix. Misaligned dies that caused tilted strikes, off-metals where planchets weren't what they were supposed to be, coins struck through grease that wiped away major details, and reverse dies showing fading eagles with missing feathers. Each of these, depending on severity, can send collectors chasing the next big discovery. Point one of the most interesting errors from this year involves a coin struck on a clad planchet that wasn't fully bonded. Because of this, part of the outer layer separated, leaving a blistered, almost peeling look on the surface. Normally, coins with bonding issues get rejected instantly at the mint, but somehow this one slipped out. When it surfaced decades later, auction houses called it a once-in-a-lifetime example. And when the bidding finally closed, it commanded a price that stunned newcomers. Just under $60,000 for a quarter that many people wouldn't give a second glance to in circulation. Collectors say the thrill of the 1995 quarter comes from its unpredictability. Most people think of error coins as older pieces, like coins from the 1950s or 1960s when production equipment wasn't as advanced. But the 1990s? People assume these coins are too modern, too carefully made, too closely monitored for big errors to appear. And that's exactly why 1995 errors carry so much energy, because they shouldn't exist. The mint was using modern systems, modern tools, and upgraded presses. Mistakes weren't impossible, but they were rare, and rarity always drives value. For example, a collector in California once found a 1995 quarter with a reverse die break stretching across the eagle's wing like a lightning bolt. Die cracks happen, but this one was thick, raised, and dramatic, cutting through the design in a way that looked almost artistic. That coin sold privately for more than $3,200, proving that even smaller errors on this date attract serious attention. Then there was the grease-filled die strike, where nearly half of United States of America faded into a ghost-like blur. This wasn't a subtle fade, whole letters were missing. That coin later sold for just over $1,900, an impressive number for a minting flaw caused by something as simple as grease clogging the dies. But the treasure hunters focus on the biggest prizes. They chase the double dies, the extreme off-center strikes, the high-grade broad strikes, and especially the transitional or off-metal errors. These are the coins that carry the heavy auction numbers, the $48,500, the $72,900, the $140,250, the kinds of payouts that turn hobbyists into lifetime collectors. The reason these errors survive is part luck, part timing, and part the simple fact that quarters circulate heavily. Unlike rare proof coins or special issues protected in cases, quarters get used. They're tossed in tip jars, spent at gas stations, dropped in drive-through windows, and rattled around in glove compartments. All that circulation increases the chances that someone might overlook an error without realizing it, which is why big discoveries still happen even today. Every time a new 1995 error quarter appears, forums light up. Collectors debate the strike, the severity, the grade, the rarity, the premium. And every time one of these coins hits an auction house, the bidding floor fills with anticipation. People know that modern era coins have been gaining momentum fast, and the 1995 quarter has established itself as one of the most exciting dates of the decade. The real magic, though, comes from the possibility that someone watching might actually have one sitting at home. A quarter saved on accident. A coin thrown in a jar 20 years ago. A strange-looking piece picked up from change without thinking twice. And because the 1995 quarter isn't old or obscure, millions of them are still out there. Somewhere that's what drives collectors to keep searching. Because this isn't a coin locked away in museums. It isn't a colonial rarity that only exists in elite collections. It's a modern piece of American currency that people still find by chance. And the idea that a $140,250 error could be sitting unnoticed is enough to spark anyone's curiosity. So whenever you handle a 1995 quarter, take a moment. Look closely at Washington's profile. Inspect the rim. Check the alignment of the strike. Flip it over and study the eagle's feathers, the lettering, the surfaces. Because errors don't hide from trained eyes. They reveal themselves when someone cares enough to look carefully. And with auction prices ranging from $48, $500 to $72, $900, all the way up to $140,250. This isn't just a collector's item, it's a reminder that value can be hiding right in front of you, even in something as ordinary as a quarter.